Welcome back to my channel, Rajisha's The Biohub. Here in this session, we will be going to discuss about the question which came from the chapter How Do Organisms Reproduce in 2018 and 19. So we can discuss the questions. The first question is, write one main difference between asexual and sexual mode of reproduction. Which species is likely to have comparatively better chances of survival? The one reproducing asexually or the one reproducing sexually? Give reason to justify your answer. Here, for this question, you have to write the definition for what you mean by sexual mode of reproduction and what you mean by asexual mode of reproduction. And after that, you want to write among these two, which is going to survive more. There we have to write the importance of variations also. Okay, here we will discuss the point. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent and offsprings are identical. So we know that in the case of binary fission in Amoeba, in Hydra, all those cases we know that only single parent is involved, right? And all the offsprings which all are formed also very identical to each other. They are very similar to each other. Second point, sexual reproduction involves two parents and genetic variations occurs in the offsprings. In the case of sexual reproduction, the chances of variations are more since it involves two genders. And sexually reproducing species have a better chance of survival because their variations developed during reproduction enables the newer offsprings to survive the changes in the environment. It allows the formation of new variants by the combinations of the DNA from two different individuals, typically one of each sex. Obviously, you might have learned in the classroom during the process of sexual reproduction, male and female gametes are getting fused, so the DNA is getting mixed, so the chances of variations are high in the case of sexual reproduction. This brings variations in the organism, which helps that organism to get adapted to the changing environment. That is the reason why we are saying that for the case of sexually reproducing organism, they are having better chances of survival. I hope it is clear to you. And moving with the second question asked in 2018 from the same lesson. Write the functions of following parts in human female reproductive system. Here they didn't ask you to draw and all, they ask you the functions of each which is mentioned. What is the function of ovary, oviduct and uterus? Here we go. The functions of ovary. It helps the production of female gametes and female hormone, right? Female gametes means ovum. It is produced by the ovary and the production of the female hormone called estrogen. And the role of oviduct is, it is a site of fertilization and transfer of female gamete from the ovary. So oviduct is also known as fallopian tube. That is a site of fertilization where the fertilization is occurring. Meeting and fusion of the sperm and the ova takes place in the oviduct. And after that, another function is discussing here is they are helping to transfer the ova or the fertilized, or what do you call egg to the uterus. Okay, so after the ovulation, through the fallopian tube, ovary is moving to the uterus, and after the fertilization, that zygote also moving to the uterus through the fallopian tube or the oviduct only. Third one, the functions of uterus. It helps implantation of zygote and nourishes the developing embryo. After the fertilization, the fate of the fertilized egg or the zygote is they are slowly moved by the beating of the cilia present in the fallopian tube and which is coming to the uterus and getting implanted to the uterine wall. And it nourishes, giving all the nutrients and the oxygen, etc., to the developing embryo. Moving to the next question. Describe in brief the structure and function of placenta. These all questions are very much closely related, right? Here you can see placenta is a special tissue that helps human embryo in obtaining nutrition from mother's blood. It's just like a disc-like structure seen in the uterine wall, okay, which provide all the nutrition from the mother's blood to the embryo. And just discussing in brief what is the structure of the placenta. This is a disc which is embedded in the uterine wall, which contains villi on the embryo side of the tissue. And on the mother's side are blood spaces which surround the villi. The functions of the placenta. It helps in nourishment of the embryo. It helps in exchange of gases by providing oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide from the fetus. It is also involved in removal of waste generated by embryo through the placenta. Not only the distribution of the nutrients as well as the oxygen, there also helps for the removal of the waste which is generated by the embryo. So you have to write this much points. And next question is, name the process by which an amoeba reproduces. Draw the various stages of its reproduction in a proper sequence. Again, another question from the asexual mode of reproduction. How do these amoeba is getting reproduced? So, amoeba, obviously we all know that amoeba is reproduces by binary fission. In the binary fission, you can see the 4 steps are given. This picture is very important. You have to concentrate all the steps in detail. Amoeba doesn't have a fixed shape, we all know that. And the first, you can see the elongation of the entire cell and elongation of the nucleus you can see. And third step, it's very important. First, the division of nucleus is occurring and later the cytoplasmic division. Okay, that you don't want to forget. First, the nucleus is dividing, then only the cytoplasm. Then it will be completely divided into 2 identical daughter cells. So this is the diagram or schematic diagram of the binary fission in amoeba. And next question. A student is viewing under the microscope a permanent slide showing various stages of asexual reproduction by budding in yeast. Draw diagrams of what he observed. Again, another question in the same year, 2018. First, they have asked you the binary fission in amoeba, and then they are asking you the budding in yeast. Okay, here we go with the answer. They didn't ask you to write anything regarding this. They need only the schematic or diagram, okay, of the budding. Here you can see the sequence of budding is given. The mother cell is there or parent cell is there. You can see a small bud is forming in the sides of the cell where the nucleus is getting elongated and it's divide the nucleus and passing the nucleus to the daughter cells. So the first nuclear divides here also, then the cytoplasm is dividing. And you can see just like a chain of cells are forming in that. Okay, it can be get detached from the parent cell, otherwise they will be going like a chain reaction like this. So this steps also you have to focus a lot to draw the diagram. And this diagram is not given in the textbook, but since it's asked in the question paper. Okay, so please you have to watch and also draw the budding in the yeast. Here we go with another year, 2019, and the question which is asked from the same lesson. The first question is, define and explain different types of pollination. List 2 agents of pollination. How does suitable pollination leads to fertilization? For this question, you have to give a definition for pollination, and you should write what are the two types of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination, and what are the agents of pollination, and how do the suitable pollinations are leading to the proper fertilization. And we are moving with the answer. The definition of pollination you can see here. It is defined as the deposition of pollen grains on the stigma of a flower from anthers belonging to the same flower, same plant, or different plant. Here, we know that the male reproductive part is known as stamen and female reproductive parts are known as pistil. Stamen is composed of anther and filament. Pistil is composed of stigma, style, and ovary. Pollen grains are present in the anther. From the anther, these pollen grains need to travel and reach the stigma. Stigma produce some kind of sticky substances for keeping the pollen grains over there. And this transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is called pollination. And two types of pollinations are there, self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination means stigma receiving pollen grains from the same flower. In the case of bisexual flowers, male reproductive parts and female reproductive parts are present in the same flower, within the same flower. Stamens and pistil will be the same flower. In the case of hibiscus, you can see the stamens plus the pistils are in the same flower. In that cases, the pollination is happening within the same flower. From the anther, the pollen grains are dusted to the stigma of the same flower. Then we can call it as self-pollination. In the case of cross-pollination, stigma receiving pollen grains from a flower on the same plant or different plant. It doesn't matter whether the pollen grains are coming from the same plant or different plant. Anyway, it's not within the same flower. Two different flowers, or maybe the two different flowers of the same plant or different plant. So if the pollination is happening in that way, then we can call it as cross pollination. And next, agents of pollination. Normally we can try the major or the important agents of pollinations are wind and insects. These pollen grains are very lightweighted. So with the help of the wind, it can transfer to the very neighboring flowers. It can fall to the stigma of that flower. And by the help of insects, we know that when the insects are sitting on the flower for getting the nectar from the flower, in their body, these kinds of pollen grains are getting stuck. And when they go to the other flowers for having the nectar, by cleaning the body or by accidentally, these pollen grains are falling to the flower. It sticks into the stigma and it leads the pollination. Some examples for wind pollinations are in the case of grasses and in the cases of gymnosperms. And examples for insect pollinations are in the case of rose flower and euphorbia species, etc. And how do that pollination is, suitable pollinations are leading to the process of fertilization. Suitable pollination leads to compatible pollen grains being deposited on the stigma, leading to pollen tube development and fertilization. In the textbook, you can see with the help of a diagram, they are showing how the process of fertilization is happening in the case of plants. The pollen grains which is fall or stuck in the stigma is developing a pollen tube. Through the tube, they are passing their germ cells and getting fertilized with the ovules, right? It reaches the ovary. So this is the way how the pollination is leading to this, fertilization. And the next one is identify the given diagram and name the parts 1 to 5. I didn't take the exact picture which is there in the question paper. I just take the real pictures from the textbook where you can see all the 5 labels are given. So this is very important diagram that you should learn to draw the diagram as well as labeling the parts. Maybe they will ask you, you have seen in the previous year, like 2018, you have seen that what is the role of oviduct, ovary, and uterus. They have asked you. In the same way, combined way, they will ask you the diagram plus the functions for 5 mark. Otherwise, they will ask you in the same way. Here you can see the pair of oviduct and ovary, and uterus, cervix, and vagina. All these 5 parts are very important. You should know how to draw and label that. And next question is, what is contraception? List 3 advantages of adopting contraceptive measures. For that, you have to give a definition of contraception. Basically, we will be doing the contraception for avoiding the pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies. And what are the methods to do that? That can be also asked. We will discuss the definition. Prevention of the occurrence of pregnancy is called contraception. Contraception is an artificial method practiced avoiding pregnancy during sexual intercourse. The contraception method prevents pregnancy by either restricting the production of eggs, restricting fertilization of eggs with sperm, or by restricting fertilized egg to implant upon the uterus. So these are the possible way how the contraception methods are helping the lady to control the pregnancy. And the advantages of contraceptive methods are, it prevents the fertilization of eggs and sperm, thereby avoiding the chances of getting unwanted pregnancy. Using barrier methods like quantums protects the persons involved in a sexual relationship from sexually transmitted diseases. It helps us from the STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. And the third point is, it controls an increase in population or birth rate. So it helps us to control the birth rate. So that is also one of the merit of the contraceptive measures used. Okay, so this is the probable important points that you have to write for that question. And next question is, draw a label diagram in proper sequence to show budding in Hydra. Again, we have seen amoeba, we have seen yeast, again Hydra. Okay, see the importance of asexual reproduction. And here you can see the diagram you must draw, okay? The Hydra, parent Hydra's body, you can see a small lateral buds are developing, small bodies developing, and it is getting, the sizes of the body is increasing. Almost it get the shape of the mother Hydra, parent Hydra, almost similar, and it acquire a minimum development and it get detached from the parent body and it's living as a free individual. Okay, so this is the way how hydras are getting reproduced. So one method of hydras reproduction is budding. Okay, so these are the questions which came in the 2 year, like 2018 and 2019, the chapter how do organisms reproduce. So all of you must practice this question answers, and they're very, very, very important. If I will be just posting you some of the year's question paper of the same chapter, and you could have get an idea like how much time they are repeating the same sort of questions. Okay, so I hope all of you practice these questions and try to get good mark the examinations. Okay, all the best, my dear children. Do well.